Crypto has a big problem. Ethereum will soon do away with miners completely, but those miners have millions of dollars in specialized equipment. There's an entire industry built around this. Where do they go? What happens next? I put an entire research report together to find out. And let me tell you, the answer isn't as simple as just mining something else. And this problem could breed a massive opportunity for you. So let's go ahead and jump in. See, Ethereum is by far the most profitable crypto to mine when it comes to GPU and ASIC miners. I've seen stats that say as much as 90% of all mining profits from this type of miner come from Ethereum. So what's the big deal here? Two words: the merge. Ethereum is getting ready to shift over to proof of stake, which means miners are no longer needed, and this industry that generates $25 million a day in fees will completely come to a halt. So when does this actually happen? The Ethereum switch has become a bit of a meme at this point because it seemed like it's about to happen forever. Here's an article from 5 years ago talking about the switch. So of course, many people are like, yeah, I'll believe the switch when I see it, Mr. Buterin. But this time seems to be different. Ethereum core developers and founders seem to be quite confident that this switch will happen in 2022. Some even say as early as August 2022. So let's assume that that's true, that the switch will happen this year. What happens to all of those miners making millions of dollars a day? Well, they have opportunities as well as major risks. Also, I need to let you know that this research report was available to members on our membership site, Finova, way ahead of this video. So if you want additional content, buy alerts, and trade signals like these from our members, you can find a link to Finova in the description below. It's an amazing site. Now, first we need to understand hash rate. Here is Ethereum's hash rate over time. You can think of hash rate or hash power as miner performance. How many guesses a miner's computer can throw at solving a hash problem in any given second. This matters because miners who solve hash problems are the ones who get paid because they earn the right to mint a block of transactions. So Ethereum's total hash rate is all the mining power combined. Ethereum's is insanely high compared to other chains. Everything you do on Ethereum, buy an NFT, trade Shiba, facilitate a pump and dump scheme, this is all processed by miners. But this poses an interesting problem. The higher the hash rate a chain has, the less profitable it is to mine there. Think of it like a lottery ticket in a bucket. The fewer the total tickets in the lottery, the higher the odds of you winning. It's no different for hash rate, and that's why a mining rig with a higher hash power earns more money. It simply owns more of the chain's total hash power, or total lottery tickets if you want to think about it that way. Now, the big problem arises when these miners go to other chains. Those other chains just aren't ready for the increased hash rate. If the total hash rate goes up dramatically in a small coin, then miners will actually lose money running their mining rigs. This is extremely bad for those ecosystems. Ethereum can be mined either via ASIC miners or GPU miners. GPU miners have quite a few options when it comes to other chains that they can move to. ASIC miners, not so much. ASICs are specifically built for the Ethereum algorithm, so those rigs can really only easily go to other chains like Ethereum Classic that use the exact same algorithm. Now, we don't know the exact distribution of GPU and ASIC miners on Ethereum, but the consensus online seems to be a split 50-50, so we're going to go with that for our future calculations. And you might be wondering, why can't miners just switch over to Bitcoin? Again, an algorithm issue. Bitcoin uses SHA-256, where Ethereum uses ET hash. Okay, technically you could do it, but it just wouldn't work very well. Again, you want to be profitable if you're running a mining rig. Now, we have all of this hash power. It needs to go somewhere after the merge. So we have to do a ton of calculations to see how other chains will actually handle this chaos. I've broken this down into a 5-step process: finding alternatives, calculate hash rate power, translate that to other chains, calculate future profitability, and then find out what the future price would be for those other cryptos in order for mining to remain as profitable as it currently is. Now, there's a ton of proof of work coins to choose from, so for the sake of simplicity, we're going to use the most promising 5 for our calculations: Firo, Ravencoin, Flux, Ethereum Classic, and Ergo. This is where things get a bit complicated. There are at least 58 different types of GPU mining cards, so we need to find the distribution of each type of card within the Ethereum network because, of course, each one has different capabilities and will have different effects on new networks. That then allows us to do a bit of math and find out how many cards of each type there are out there mining Ethereum. For example, there's 204,000 3070 cards. Okay. Now that we know each card, their capabilities, and how many of them there are, we can see how they'll perform mining other chains and the surprising effects. Feel free to pause this if you're a bit of a nerd, but this shows the hash rate for each card on each different mining algorithm. And now we can calculate what happens post-merge. We're going to assume 2.5% of Ethereum GPU cards will move to Firo and Flux, 12.5% to RVN, 22.5% to Ergo, 15% of Ethereum GPU cards, and 80% of the Ethereum ASIC cards will move to Ethereum Classic, 25% of the Ethereum GPU cards will move to coins that aren't on this list, and 20% of GPU miners will just quit mining altogether because it just doesn't make sense anymore.
I hate this job. I hate this job and I don't need it.
This will result in a hash rate change of between 600 and 1100% for these 5 coins. Remember, that will dramatically reduce the profitability to mine on those chains, but it will create some other opportunities. Here we can see how much individual miner profitability will decrease on each of these 5 new chains after the Ethereum merge, anywhere from 7 to a whopping 82% decrease in profitability. We can then take those figures and find the profitability break-even point for each of these coins. Basically, how high does the price have to go for miners to be as profitable as they are now? Again, there's a major oversupply issue after the Ethereum merge. Flux would have to increase 600%, RVN 1100%, Ergo 1600% to $41 a coin, Ethereum Classic 2000%, and finally Firo 8,000% to break even with current mining profitability. As you can see, this places a massive strain on miners, and we can't be sure, but potentially on these coins as well. If thousands of miners come to a new coin, begin mining it, and immediately sell everything they mine, this would put a ton of downwards pressure on those coins. However, that is assuming a lot of actions. Not all miners are just going to sell. So where do the opportunities come in? I see 2. First is identifying one of these coins that you particularly like. If one of these coins sees a ton of attention and some name recognition as the go-to coin for miners after the merge, this will mean a ton of visibility and publicity, which could help push up the price. Here you can see I've put together some network activity data on each of these 5 coins. We have new active addresses, transactions per active address, and social engagement metrics. Further, here's some data on development stats, VC funding, and token allocation to insiders. Now there is a secondary opportunity, mining rigs. As we can see, mining profitability will absolutely go down after the Ethereum merge, but eventually the market will even out and become profitable again. Despite that, many people will sell their GPUs right after the merge, meaning that will be one of the best times ever to pick up a used mining rig or GPU. So you could wait for mining to be profitable again, buy GPUs and use that compute power for other things that need it, or build up a ton of hash power to make yourself a super competitive miner. It's important to remember that the world of crypto is insanely new. We're still at the very beginning of this space and will continue to see massive changes on a yearly basis. But for every change, you can bet that there's someone out there finding a way to make a ton of profit. Whenever there's big changes, there is money made. I'd like to thank you so much for watching. I'm Max Maher, and I hope you have a profitable day.